Let's talk about the last letter, which in the MBTI code is going to be a J or P, which stands for judging or perceiving. Now, I know these words can kind of throw people off because an INTJ is seen to have a J at the end, right? The J, a judging. But our dominant function is a perceiving function. It's introverted intuition. So oftentimes INTJs will behave more like what is considered to be a perceiving type. And perceiving types, such as an INTP, which has a judging function, introverted thinking, as its dominant function, may seem to be more like a judging type. So you have mistypings like crazy. You have INTJs, INTPs, ISTPs, and they're all kind of like cross-contaminating each other in the typing world. So ultimately, when someone gets their type or they think they know what they are and they go out into the world and they start telling other people about themselves, unfortunately, I think you can get a lot of misinformation. So it's really important to read about all the different types and the cognitive functions yourself and kind of make your own judgments about whether I myself, a proclaimed INTJ, is really an INTJ or not. It's up to you to decide. I've already decided for myself, but have you decided for you what I am? Anyway, we can get into judging or perceiving. In the MBTI code, the third letter is considered judging, whereas the second letter is considered the perceiving. If you have a J at the end, you are going to extrovert your judging function. And if you have a P at the end, you're going to extrovert your perceiving function. Okay, so if you end up having a J at the end of your type code, like I do, you prefer to live your outer life using extroverted thinking or extroverted feeling to organize or access the world. So you like things to be settled. You're seeking closure for closure's sake. That's interesting. Because, I'm trying to think how I feel about that, because I have extroverted thinking, right? But it's my second function. My extroverted thinking is subservient to my introverted intuition. Introverted intuition does kind of have a narrowing down aspect to it. Depending on who you are, I've often noted INTJs to be fairly open-minded because they're considering multiple perspectives. So it's interesting because I require a lot of perspectives from the extroverted sensing world. I'm taking that in and I'm kind of deconstructing them and picking them apart and putting them into kind of an overarching or holistic mental model that I have. But I can be very open-minded because I'm always looking to evolve or adapt my overarching holistic model into something better or improved. The idea of closure is interesting because I know whenever I write poetry or storytelling, I do use the principles of catharsis. So I'm often circling around or circling back, or making meaning matter by making connections from the beginning to the end in sort of a cyclical or circle sort of fashion. But it's interesting because throughout my life, I've been very drawn to, and this might be my preference for trying to represent reality as truly and authentically as reality exists, and holistically. I've been very attracted to postmodernism and these sort of open-ended themes of there's not always closure when it comes to life. You can't always reach catharsis and you can't always reach closure. So judging tend to enter a situation having already anticipated how it will be and settle on an action before the event. That's kind of true for NI because it's a planning function. But for TE, extroverted thinking within itself, at least in the second position, is also kind of open and discussive because it's looking to adapt other people's thoughts But ultimately, when I do act, it is a decided course of action, but I can't tell if that's the TE or the NI, or if it's the FI fixed values. I can't tell where that's coming from. I don't know if that's coming from the judging function or if it's coming from a collaboration between multiple functions, at least in myself. Prefer to plan ahead and follow the plan or guideposts, living in a planned, orderly way. Maybe an ISTJ with SI as the dominant function would be much more orderly than an INTJ. We can be a little sloppy, honestly. And it's something I could really work on fixing. You know, I could be a little bit more orderly. My grandma would call me a little tornado in the kitchen, and she's an ESFJ. That's also up to debates. These are very broad categories, and SI again is that's the orderliness associated with SI. That's a perceiving or function according to this system. So there's a lot of seeming contradictions just in broad classifications of the letter system. So I think you're much better off looking at the cognitive functions and how they operate in their preference positions. So whether it's the dominant function, the auxiliary, the tertiary, or the fourth last, I forget what they call it. Some people call it the little baby in the car, in the car model. Check out Personality Hacker, it's pretty cool. Orient to deadlines early. I mean, I do that. That's NI. I feel like that's NITE though. Schedule and organize projects and tasks to avoid anxiety and overload. Also seems like NITE for me. I guess it's down to my TE function. Does FE do the same thing? Does extroverted feelings schedule and organize projects? Because that sounds like a T thing. Like I think, I know FE dominant individuals can organize projects and tasks, but that's usually because of NI or SI. NI and SI are the big organizers of information. So I wouldn't leave that up to T and F, especially in the extroverted position. T and F in the extroverted position are maybe organizing people and tasks or models. I mean, TE is very much projects and tasks oriented. FE is kind of organizing the human resource element. So I don't know, this is already very confusing. So I think if you're with me, you can kind of imagine how a lot of mistyping would happen.